Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say, it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Monday edition, a President's Day edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Good show lineup today on President's Day. We got JC going to kick it off here in just a second. Then we're going to have Cam Newbauer, the head women's basketball coach, give us a rundown. They have a big game tonight in the O'Connell Center against a ranked Kentucky team that they upset last year. He had a big upset win last week at LSU. So we'll get his thoughts on the women's program. But in the meantime, let's go to the Titan Tomorrow hotline. We're joined by Johnny C. Good morning, JC.
All right, my man. Yeah, doing well. Got the very good news in spite of all the rain this weekend that the Florida men's golf team has backed up their Florida Gator Invitational golf victory from a year ago with another win this year. I didn't go. I wasn't sure if people were even allowed to go.
Yes, they were. If you would watch the show, you would have known that.
Well, yeah, but when I read about it, they didn't say anything about having people there, and I wasn't sure why. But good for J.C. Deacon and good for the Gator men's golf team. And that is a tournament they should win that, right? I mean, this is the course they practice on and play on, but there were plenty of years before even J.C. Deacon that they did not have much success winning their own tournament. And so it is right that they win the only one they host, and certainly the one on a course that you and I both have played and know is as difficult as they get here in town, for sure.
Well, it's the best. It's the best course in town by far, no question about it.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
I mean, there's nowhere else to compare it to.
No, I mean, but it's difficult in terms of what we've seen the greens. Now, look, with all the rain they had this week, and those greens probably were easier. But I still say it's a good tournament for them to win because it's their home tournament. It's only
there's no question. Hope everyone's staying safe out there. We got people out in Dallas and all over the country watching on this crazy winter storm. Softball goes 2-0. Their third game gets rained out. Good start for them against UCF. Gymnastics had a huge win over LSU. And
that'd be USF.
What's that?
USF.
What did I say?
UCF.
Regardless, they'll beat either one of those teams. They stink.
They will. That's true.
So, JC, that kind of gives you a rundown of what's going on.
Yeah.
Gator basketball is set to play tomorrow night at Arkansas. Arkansas is a very hot team in the SEC. They're set at second place right now behind Alabama. Had a big win at Missouri.
Big win.
Basketball is getting interesting. Ole Miss has won 4 in a row.
They're trying to play in.
There's projected 5 SEC teams. I look at my list. I have 6. So I don't know. I mean, here's a question for everybody out there. And some people think that they should not play conference tournaments because of COVID. I totally disagree with that. Look,
of course,
if you're going to get it, you're going to get it. You can try as hard as you possibly can to stay away from COVID or the contact tracing, whatever it is. And here's the crazy thing. Because it was pouring yesterday here in the games.
Yeah.
I was watching some of the Michigan. That was the first game they played in almost like a month because they shut down every sport there.
They did.
And what was interesting, they said not one player or coach on the Michigan basketball team tested positive.
Yeah.
But it goes back to the whole contact tracing through their athletic program that shut the entire program down.
Well, and good for Michigan, but I mean, not.
I don't think it's good for them.
No. I mean,
they should have been playing.
No, but I mean, they're good for their team getting back out on the court. I did. That's all I meant to say is, finally back out on the court. It seems like Florida hasn't played in a month, and I think, this is where I wish Florida was playing Vanderbilt or somebody struggling right now, as opposed to a team like Arkansas. Not playing in 3 weeks or 2 weeks and then having to travel to a team that is cooking right now is not, I think, a recipe for success. I think Arkansas is really the second best team in the league right now if you add it all up the way they're playing. Now, of course, you look at basketball the way you look at things like you look at basketball. I look at basketball as a trendy or a momentum type of sport where the teams that are playing their very best at the right time usually end up being the ones that show success for the entire season as a result. And so when you get hot like this, you want to keep playing. You don't want to have to stop playing. But the tournament, having the conference tournaments, like you were saying, I think is a good dress rehearsal for what we're waiting for in March. So I think it is necessary to play those things because it will give us an idea of what it's going to be like in March for March Madness, because that's the
argument is some people are saying, let's take Alabama, for example. They know they're in the March Madness, in the big dance.
Right.
Should they risk going to Nashville and playing in the tournament? However, if they go and win their conference tournament, they may go from a 2 seed to a 1 seed.
No, I know all the reasons why.
And maybe I'm in the minority because I know what the athletes go through. I know how many times they're tested, how they're protected. If you put all 14 teams in the same hotel where nobody else can go in that hotel, that's what they did in the Cotton Bowl. When Florida went to the Cotton Bowl, Florida and Oklahoma were the only people in this hotel facility. And nobody could come in and out. No parents, nothing. You could not visit. So they kept them protected. Why they can't do that with an Embassy Suites or whatever there in Nashville, and all they're going to do is get on a van and they're going to go to the Bridgestone Arena, play in front of a few fans, and go right back. If you lose, you go home.
Well, we've seen that.
I think they could put them in a safe environment, personally. Maybe I'm ignorant, but that's just the way I feel.
Well, no, you're simply using the example the NBA set. I mean, they were able to do it. What's the difference, really? I mean, you've got athletes segregated from society. That's all you're talking about. It worked for the NBA playoffs, didn't it?
Yeah, because the biggest thing is when you look at the conference tournaments, it's a way for other teams to get into the dance. The Ole Misses, Missouri, Tennessee, whoever's on the bubble in the SEC is going to have to win some games in the tournament to get into the big tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been a part of, the bubble, right? It's always been a part of it. So, you have to play it. I don't see really the reason. COVID. Well, I think that if you segregate, this is what it's all been about, isn't it? Social distancing. So the NBA has shown you that this formula works. The NHL proved that this worked. The NBA proved it. I don't see why they couldn't do this if they wanted to. It's a question, I think, of whether or not they truly want to. It's kind of like
they're going to do it. I'm telling you right now. I think every conference is going to do it because when you look, I forgot what game I was watching as it was pouring down rain yesterday. UConn, who sits at like 8 and 9 or something, they upset some team they were playing yesterday. And the announcers were talking about how well they're playing right now, but they don't have enough games left on their schedule to get to that automatic bid that they need the conference tournament to add more wins.
Well, I mean,
Dan says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. If they all go into the bubble without COVID, you don't worry about cancellation. I agree 100%. And I don't think people realize how much these kids are tested. So, JC, some other news and notes around the world before I get to some text. Did you know McNeese State won a double overtime football game over Tarleton State?
I did not know that.
Spring football is here. FCS spring football is here.
Friday. You mentioned it Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, they won in double overtime. Oregon starting quarterback Tyler Slaw, however you pronounce his last name, he was their starting quarterback last year. He is in the transfer portal.
Okay.
And then Gus Malzahn has been offered the head coaching job at UCF. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. I don't know why. I guess Jeff Levy doesn't want to be a head coach because it makes no sense to me. He would make probably 4 or 5 times as much as he's making at Ole Miss right now. He must just not feel comfortable being a head coach because that makes no sense.
Or ready for that particular position. Yeah. Gus, I don't know if Gus really If I'm Gus, I'm waiting. I think. I mean, UCF is fine. Living in Orlando does not stink, but he doesn't need to worry about money. But I know that coaches are driven
like
by coaches, right? Coaches are coaches, and they're driven by coaching. So Orlando wouldn't be a terrible place, that's for sure. Maybe he's waiting for a Power 5 offer as opposed to a Group of 5 offer. But I think
well, he's not going to get an offer this year. That's the only job open in the country. We got a text here on the Tight number text line. Comes from Ryan. He says, "Happy Monday, gents. I caught up on a few of last week's podcasts working around the house this weekend." See, JC, people listen to this podcast days after we record.
okay.
And y'all's QB argument on Wednesday was a Jerry Springer-like classic. I was expecting chairs to be thrown.
I don't know what the argument was.
But I agree with JC concerning QBs and their given eras. Marino and Elway were like Atari in the 80s, and Mahomes is now Xbox. But without a complete team around him, he ain't winning 2 Super Bowls, much less 7. I didn't say he was going to win 7. I said he will go to 10, and I think he will. He's that good. We also got a text here from Daryl. He says, "Good morning, guys. Late night at Daytona. Happy for Michael McDowell. Glad Chase Elliott made it through without being wrecked." Daryl, I was getting ready to mention that. My guy, Chase Elliott, who I picked, JC's guy, he was wiped out in like the 4th lap. Chase Elliott comes in 2nd. I need one of our NASCAR fans because NASCAR is very confusing to me.
Yeah.
You know, he won. They brought the caution flag out because of the wreck on the last lap. But I guess since he was the guy in the lead, he automatically wins.
Yeah, wins
that makes no sense to me.
They run 500 miles, QB. They don't run 506 miles. So, you don't stop the cars running. They just keep spinning around that track unless it's undrivable like it was for the entire night, basically, until it dried up. Yeah, I mean that's happened before. It's happened plenty of times before.
And I never understood
caution.
So, JC, since you know so much about NASCAR, you watch the race, and they talk about the teammates working together and all this stuff. Well, who determines? Let's say you and I are on so and so's racing team. Okay,
right.
We both drive Chevys.
Okay,
and who determines at the beginning of the damn race? Okay. I'm going to help JC win today. Well, the hell with that. I want to win.
You want to win. No, the way our minds work, QB, is that's exactly how it would seem to be. But when they draft and when they help block out other cars, they kind of – and the racing team, the guy who's doing all the helping that doesn't win, what does he get out of this, right? Well, I guess the answer is he gets to stay on the team.
Well, do they stroke him like a percentage of the check? Or I mean, I really seriously, in all seriousness, I need somebody here on Facebook Live because we got a ton of listeners that watch NASCAR and know it. I don't know it. I don't claim to know it. I just know that they keep turning left and go as fast as they can. But I don't understand the teammate aspect because it's an individual sport. You have your racing team, that your pit crew and all that. But I don't understand why so-and-so would help the other guy try to win the damn race.
And there's a problem. And there's probably a very logical answer to that. But I'm kind of like you. I don't feel like it's like, to me, it's who is the driver that wins regardless of what team he's on. But it seems like they celebrate not just that driver, but the racing team, the pit crew. Listen, without the pit crew, you can't win a race.
The pit crew is on your team. It's not the big team. So.
Well, true. No, they're only servicing one car, but maybe it's the team owner owns all the pit crews. He owns the cars. He owns the sponsorships, essentially, because he's got the connections that fund this, that get the sponsorships. It goes into a different area of the sport that I'm not very well versed with. I used to like auto racing back when it was Buddy Baker, Richard Petty, David Pearson, Bobby Allison, Davey Allison, Cale Yarborough, David Pearson. Those guys, Neil Bonnet, Tim Richmond, Darrell Waltrip. That's when I watched racing. I mean,
why don't you watch it now? What's the difference? What is the difference?
Well, all the cars look the same to me. They
didn't look the same back then?
It's got, oh no, David Pearson's Mercury, Richard Petty's Dodge Charger, Cale Yarbrough's Thunderbird.
They were just painted different, JC.
No, they looked very different. You got to go back. You got to go back and look at Richard Petty's Dodge Charger, David Pearson's Mercury. It was very different looking. And the way the engines were done, and you didn't have 75 sponsorships on the guy's uniform and nor on his car. It was less corporate. It was different racing.
Well, because nobody cared back then. Now it's the number one sport in the world.
No, many people cared.
Well, now it's the number one sport in the world.
Nobody is compared to Richard Petty. All right, nobody compares to people like A.J. Foyt in IndyCar racing, and Johnny Rutherford, and Bobby Unser, and Mario Andretti. Sorry, you can't name 5 IndyCar drivers right now. So Johnny Rutherford, A.J. Foyt, you could easily name. It was very different back then, QB. And just because you didn't watch it back then doesn't mean it wasn't. It was, because that's actually when I did watch it. But today, I mean, the Fords look different than the Chevys. They look different than the Dodges. They look different than each other.
Well, the cars have, if I'm not mistaken, the cars all have to be the same.
No, they
nowadays
had something called the carburetor restrictor plate that changed it for me. Back then, you didn't have a carburetor restrictor plate, QB. Now you're getting into the weeds here. You're starting to drift, all right? Come back to shore, because you're getting lost out there, and the alligators are going to chomp you up. So just come on back. Just come on back.
I want somebody to let me know why they help each other out. Hell with that. I'm trying to win the race. All right.
Okay.
Here's our This Day in Sports, brought to you by Comfort Temp. At Comfort Temp is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchase, $199 value. Service departments available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for your convenience. This Day in Sports, 2004. Speaking of racing, the 46 Daytona 500, Dale Earnhardt Jr. wins exactly 6 years to the day after his father, Dale Earnhardt Sr., won his first and only Daytona 500 in 1998. And then 3 years later was the tragic.
He passed.
I want to say it was 20 years. I want to say it was 20 years to yesterday when he died. I remember exactly where I was.
And I
know where you are?
Yeah, I was watching it in my.
What were you watching? You said you don't watch, JC.
No, I liked it back then. Now
that was 20 years ago.
No, I know, but it was even better then than it is today to me. But I did watch it. I didn't watch all the races. I could tell you what Watkins Glen is. Could you tell me what that is?
Yeah.
What is it?
Watkins Glen is the shortest track on tour.
No, that's Bristol.
Oh, Bristol. Okay. Well, anyway, long story short, I remember exactly where I was.
Yes, and he passed away.
I was in the Charlotte airport coming home from Washington, D.C.
Well, I mean, it was a horrible thing. He ran right into the wall. Nowadays, the cars are much more safer than they were when he passed it. Had he been in a car that was built today, he may have survived it. But it happened on the last lap of that race, and it was tragic, really. And he is, of course, one of the most favorite to ever drive. So
we got a Facebook Live here, crazy. Brought to you by Melton Law. Sandy says, "Since when does JC know anything about car racing?"
Well, have Sandy been watching? Has Sandy been watching the last 10 minutes?
Well, I mean, you're spitting out stuff that I think the
Watkins
average
Glen?
person knows.
Nobody knows who Watkins Glen is, apparently.
Is that the short track where they don't go in a circle?
Right, and it's in New York, and you go left and right and everything. It's kind of like Sebring. But Bristol, now, this is a racetrack I would love to go to, and it's the 1 mile track at Bristol with the big stadium around where the Vols played the Virginia Tech Hokies to open the season a few years ago. You can put 90,000 people in there, and it's tight and it's steep, and these cars are doing a 1 mile. That's where racing, you don't just hit the gas and turn left and hope for an accident to get you from last to first. That's where you got to really bump and grind and get through it. And so I do know a little bit about it, but to me, it's not nearly as interesting as it was in the days of Buddy Baker. Okay.
Rick says here, Shane, they help each other until the end and they have a chance to win. Then all hell ends. So we're getting texts now from our
Well,
NASCAR.
you asked that question. You opened up the entire NASCAR world to your show, Shay. I suggest you get
We just
better
got a text from
get better
Joe.
at it.
We just got a text from Joe, and all he said was race harder.
Well, we talked about that. Friday? Yeah.
Yes, we did. Golf this weekend.
I will
Pebble
tell you
Beach.
what I watched.
Congratulations
Yeah, I
to JC, your guy, your Seminole.
First and third, picked first and third.
Yes,
thank you very much.
My guy 4-putted hole 16, or he would have had a chance. But Daniel Berger was outstanding.
Oh, he was.
That's back-to-back wins on tour for the semis.
Well, I tell you, that must mean Brooks Koepka is going to win the next tournament down in L.A. At the Genesis, at Riviera, which is where a lot of the big names play or like to play, but in Pacific Palisades, California. But the tournament yesterday, Daniel Berger's he's lipping out everything. He's frying the edges everywhere, and you think, is this guy just going to blow up and the frustration take over? And the answer is a resounding no. What happened to Nate Lashley, though, was so unfortunate because it was basically one shot. It wasn't the putts necessarily that screwed him over, even though he needed to make those. It was the one shot that he actually thought he hit correctly, but that went a little too far into a very bad lie behind the green where the pin was not accessible, and it really screwed him. And it's a shame because after that one shot, I think the rest of it just came unraveled, and had that shot landed anywhere on the green, he would have two-putted and been right there in contention. Having said that, he only birdied 18. Of course, he could have birdied 17, but Berger eagling 18 to me was the defining moment of the entire tournament, in spite of what happened to poor Nate. And that's because on the third round, as he finished, he double bogeyed it. He made a 7 on that last hole, but hitting it out of bounds. And so he got to sleep the entire night before the final round, thinking about that double bogey, comes back and hits 3 of the best shots of the tournament to get that eagle. And boy, 18 under at that tournament was enough to win it. And I thought the guy, he's won 4 times now, and he's going to win a lot more. He could have played, but didn't get to play in the Masters last year in November because he wasn't invited by the time April had come prior to November. But now he's automatically in. So watch this guy's name. He's going to win again this year.
He's a good player. He plays the ball left to right, just like Koepka does. Play a fade. That's the best.
Tremendous player. I tell you, though, this guy Lashley, if he can get behind all this, look, he still finished tied for 5th, so he's a top 10 finish, and he's been playing well in California during this time and this rotation of the PGA Tour. If he continues driving the ball off the tee box as consistently as he is right now, because he's about as dead accurate as they come off the tee, he's going to be in contention because these guys are so good that if they're hitting it from the short grass consistently on any track, they're going to be a contender. And this guy is somebody to keep your eye on. I really believe that.
Yeah. Well, we'll have our Peachland Dentistry golf picks on Wednesday because
it's a big tournament.
We've kind of taken our picks, kind of cheated a little bit and taken pretty much people in the top 15 in the last few weeks.
Right, but keep in mind the guys we picked to win it this last week were 3 or 4 strokes behind. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that was after just 1 round, so there's 3 other rounds.
We'll see. All the big names are going to be playing this week at Riviera. So
Dustin Johnson will be in it. Rory. There'll be some good. I mean, this is one of their favorite tracks. That's not a major, kind of like the one in Charlotte where they play what used to be known as the Wachovia, as Wells Fargo, whatever it's called. A lot of these tracks that they play on tour that are not majors, they do have some favorites. That's for sure.
Yep. Back to basketball before we let you go, JC. Okay. Alabama had a big win over Georgia. And as I said, Arkansas probably had the biggest win in the conference going to Missouri. Missouri's lost 2 in a row ever since being bumped to the ranked 10th in the country. So you got like 6 teams. Right now I saw yesterday they projected 5 SEC teams.
That's what we said last week, 5.
Well, I think it should be 6 personally. So think about this. Alabama's in. Yeah. Arkansas is in.
Oh, yeah.
LSU initially was on the bubble, but they had a big win at home against Tennessee. So now they're 13-6, 8-4 in the league. Florida's at 10-5, 6-4. Tennessee is at 7-5 in conference play. and you got Missouri, who's 6-5, 13-5 overall, but they have as many tier 1 wins or whatever they call it as anybody in the country. And then you got Ole Miss, Ole Miss is 7-6 in league play, 12-8 overall, and they've won 4 in a row.
Yeah.
So
I think Mississippi has a real opportunity here to finish strong. This is where that tournament can come in to help them if they get to play it, of course, which I think we both agree they will, unless some just disaster hits these teams health-wise. But Mississippi is somebody to keep your eye on. They're playing hot right now, and they have coming up a game that's against, where is it? They play LSU, so that's another good resume builder for Mississippi, and they're playing them at home. I'm going to go ahead and say that they win that game. I have a prediction they'll win that game. And the other prediction I'm going to make is by the end of the year, Jerry Stackhouse will be fired at Vanderbilt. So those are two.
I don't think so.
Why not? He's 4-24. I mean,
right. Nobody was winning before him. I think I've watched them play. I watched some of that Mississippi State game. They hammered Mississippi State, who I think is a pretty good team.
That was a surprise. I think that may have also been.
But you know what? You know what Vanderbilt did so well?
What's that?
They made shots.
Well, I'll say this. Let me just go ahead and go on a limb here and say that if Alabama makes 60% of the threes they attempt, they will be deep. They will go very deep because the math works. So you shoot 60% from 3-point line. Now you could also shoot 20% from the 3-point line and not go anywhere. So that's the risk you take shooting those shots, and that's what they live with at Alabama. But Herbert Jones was able to play get some good points on the inside as well, and they will get Jordan Bruner back, that big tall guy from Yale who's been injured for most of the season, who's a very good player. So if he gets healthy by tournament time, they'll be a real dangerous team. But I think Mississippi's got a chance. I do. I think they beat LSU at home, and they could be on their way as one of those first 4 in that Lenardi talks about, because now we get to hear him talk about first 4 in, next 4 out, last 4 out, that kind of stuff. We get to hear that now for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah, he
that's what he does.
Yeah, that's true. So
that's all he does.
Anyway, well, JC,
yeah.
Why do you have a Pittsburgh Pirate hat on today?
Well, it's the only black hat I saw in the closet that had somewhat of a gold tint with this Army hat kind of matched, And plus, I ate at an Italian restaurant in Jonesville last night, in Pittsburgh. There's a lot of Italians live there.
That's pretty funny.
Well,
all right, JC.
I got another one. I'll bust that. You didn't notice the Raiders one on Friday? I had the Raiders hat Friday because I went out west. I got a new one for you on Wednesday, too. I'm sure there's eager anticipation to see which one that will be.
Dan says on Facebook Live here, brought to you by Mellon Law, JC's philosophy: if you make shots and score more, you win. Pretty good.
You usually do score more when you make a lot of shots.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, JC, we'll talk to you Wednesday. Go study your golfers.
Okay, we'll do it. See you then.
Hey, folks, let me tell you about another one of our new sponsors, G-Tech Clean. Let me show you how it works.
G-Tech Clean is your complete germ protection. It's EPA approved to kill COVID-19 and kills 99.9% of all germs and viruses, black mold, and also deodorizes. It's the safest, affordable way to clean and sanitize your business, no matter if it's a gym, school, retail store, or office. Use it in your home, anywhere from the bathroom to the kids' room. It's formulated to provide 24/7 protection and is over 30 times more durable than any other cleaners. Try G-Tech at home as well.
I use G-Tech Clean to keep my studio clean of any germs and viruses, and so should you. We're going to take our first time out of the program. When we come back, we'll be joined by the head women's basketball coach at the University of Florida, Cam Newbauer. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
Hey Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport. Keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center. Center State Bank. Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Darlene Weeby Realtor Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Aikido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Dar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all our great sponsors that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
I don't think a lot of people realize you didn't start playing football till like maybe 10th grade, and you were a member of the band, correct?
Yes, I was. I would have been the biggest trombone player in America, Shane. Yeah, I was in the band, had made it up to second chair in the band playing the trombone. And I remember my first day of high school, I went in, signed up for all my classes. I'm walking out the auditorium. Somebody says, "Hey," I turn around, it's the principal of the school, and he comes up to me and he asked me, had I signed up for varsity sports? And I was like, no. So he just grabbed me by the arm and took me back in the auditorium, and he signed me up for varsity sports, which turned out to be.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point's where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Nike, Sensei, Dave & Buster's, opening soon, Prime and Pearl in coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by the head women's basketball coach here at the University of Florida, Cam Newbauer. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Doing great, Shane. Appreciate you having me on. And what a great weekend with the Gators men's golf winning the Invitational. So good stuff happening. Gymnastics Friday night, big time win at LSU after we won there, and volleyball. So great weekend over there in Tiger Country.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll get to that game in a minute, but I haven't had you on my show before, and I want to go back to your younger days. You played a little college ball and then got into coaching, and you were the head coach at Belmont. I want to just kind of know how the process went down when Scott Strickland made that phone call.
Well, Shane, it was a really, really kind of a cool moment, because my first boss ever told me that every day's an interview and you just never know who's watching, right? Well, the day that they decided they were going to make a coaching change, I started getting text messages from people saying, "Hey, Florida's going to come after you." And I'm like, man, they didn't even know who I am. Like, there's no way, right? Well, the next day I'm driving to Indiana to do a home visit with the recruit. And about 10:30 a.m., I get a phone call from a 662, I believe it was, Mississippi area code. And I'm like, what is this? And I answer the phone, and this fella says, it's Scott Strickland, the AD at Florida. And my mouth just dropped, man. And tells me that, when we're done with the season, wants to talk to me about any interest I may have. And Shane, the coolest thing was my third year at Belmont, we played in the NCAA tournament, and we played at Mississippi State. And I found out on my interview here that Scott Strickland, when he was the AD at Mississippi State, he came to our game. And we weren't playing Mississippi State, but he came to the second half of the game. And, it was a 4-point game with Michigan State at halftime. We were a 13 seed, and in women's basketball, 13 seeds typically don't compete very well with the 4 seeds. And he watched the second half, came to the press conference and everything, and basically told me that at that point, that was like my pre-interview. And that is when he knew that one day he would be interested in talking to me about being a head coach for him. And so talk about a lesson I'd really tried to stick with myself, knowing that, hey, every day, every moment's an interview, and you have to be prepared because you never know who's watching.
Yeah, that's a great lesson, no question about it. You've coached men's basketball and mostly women's. When did you know that you wanted to kind of be a women's college basketball coach?
Well, it's funny because I never, it was never on my mind, and I had an opportunity, and I was like, you know what, no, I don't want to do this. And what had happened was my sister played Division I college basketball at a very high level, BCS level at Indiana, and she started to get recruited as a freshman. And I was at Georgia with the men, and I got to know Andy Landers, women's basketball legend, a pioneer. And through my sister getting recruited, it really got me interested. And then Coach Landers came to me to see if I'd want to coach with him. And, basically to go from a men's program that's fighting to get in the tournament to go to a top 5 program of all time with a Hall of Famer and have that opportunity was just something too good to pass up. And so I jumped all over that. And, so basically because of my family roots, that was a big impact on me wanting to coach women's basketball and to make that influence with my sister, but also to learn, what it's like to coach at the highest level.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You had to coach against your sister, correct?
Coolest thing ever. Her first basket ever was against me when I was a coach at Georgia as an assistant. So her first basket ever was like in her 3rd game ever in her career. She scored her first basket. So then check this out, man. My first year as a head coach at Belmont, we play Indiana in the NIT, and it's her senior year. So I've got a chance to end her career. We missed a 3 with 3 seconds left that touched every area of the rim, went down, came out, and we would have beat them by 1 to end her career, and it didn't go in. So just kind of crazy turn of events how that came about to where first basket ever, and then get to play against her as a head coach was something so special. You can't write that in a story even any better than that. So it was pretty neat for our family.
We're speaking with Coach Cam Newbauer here on the Titan MR Hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at Cam New. Coach, when you took over the Florida program, every coach talks about when they take over a new job about changing the culture. How difficult is that? And is the culture and everything that you wanted to change, is it getting there, or is it already there with your program?
It's such a process. And the thing that I'd never been a part of, when I coached at Louisville, Georgia, top 5 program all time, I immediately walked into a program as an assistant that had won at a very high level. And then I take over a job at Belmont where culture was really good because, such a great school, had really, really kids, and we just had to instill the winning culture. Well, then I get here, and it's tough because you're trying to install a winning culture, but also trying to install the right culture with making sure you've got players that are great ball-wise, not just because it's 80 degrees most of the year, because it's a top 6 public school. And so all of a sudden you're realizing, like, look, we got to get basketball kids in here that care about making this great basketball-wise. We didn't have enough of those. And now I can tell you that we've got the most we've had in a while. I think our culture's in a great spot. I think we've turned the corner. And now, you throw in the COVID piece to that, and it's a couple wrinkles. You lose 2 games versus Vandy. And, like in our game the other day, Shane, we played, our freshmen and sophomores played 191 of the 225 minutes, and we won in an overtime game. I mean, you can't practice that in practice. And so the way our team connected, the chemistry we have, and also the talent we have, I think we're well on our way right now to taking that next step. And it's just such a process that you never understand how long it really might take. And so it's taken longer, of course, as I wanted, because I thought it would happen overnight, because that's what us coaches believe.
Right.
But you've got to stick with the process and be patient, because it does take time.
And part of your process, too, is you have your girls, women, however you want to phrase it, really involved in the community. I think that's a big part of your program. Before we get into the X's and O's and how the season's going, talk a little bit about what the community involvement with your girls in the community, how important that is for the program.
Well, first and foremost, this is such a great town. And, Coach Spurrier coming back here, opening up a restaurant, having an office, having a home. I mean, as much as Billy Donovan comes back, Tebow, great players, great coaches, that shows you what this community really is, for these people to come back and to put their roots back down here and to visit so much. And I just think we would be remiss as a program if we don't show our players the power of who they can become as human beings outside of their game. And what I mean by that is these young people grow up thinking that, this sport that they compete in is life. But once you can take them to a homeless shelter, a soup kitchen, a nursing home, talk to schools, read to young children at elementary schools, once they can see the power of who they are, not with what they do, but just who they are and the impact they can make in the community they live in, then I think they can truly start to see the impact they can have in our world as human beings, and that we get to use this amazing platform of basketball to impact people. And it's been really neat to see how much our players embrace this, and not just here in our local community, but even when we're on the road, of us just blessing other people in any way we can, and doing, there's been times where we've did community service on the road at different moments. And it's just, you always talk about staying in the moment and being present. And I think there's no better way to do that than when you go to a hospital, a children's hospital like Shands, Ronald McDonald House, and you just see kind of what some of these folks and these children have to deal with, and the opportunity that our players have just to bless them. And just always want to give back to wherever we are, and just to help love and serve people best we can, because there's too many people in our world that don't think they deserve that or don't have that. Just as many as we can.
Yeah, that's great that y'all do that, no question. Coach, y'all sit at 10-8 on the year right now. Tonight you have a big game against Kentucky. Kentucky, you upset them last year at their place. It's the Play for K game. You'll be wearing your pink uniforms. Talk a little bit about the game tonight. Did we lose him?
Yep, top 20. You got me still?
We got you, Coach. We had you.
Sorry about that. You got me now?
We got you now, I think. Do we got him there, Ev?
I think I'm good.
There you go, Coach. We got you back now. Gotcha. Just talk a little bit. I don't know if you heard me or not, but tonight is the Play for K game against Kentucky, where y'all upset them last year. Talk about how important this game is tonight, and y'all will be wearing the pink uniforms tonight, right?
Yep. It's a great initiative to support not just cancer, but breast cancer in particular, that has affected so many women's lives. My mother-in-law and my sister-in-law has dealt with it recently, and it's just such a vicious disease. And the more support that we can have to battle such a thing for women, and just to help them come through this. So it's a great initiative that we have every year in women's basketball, Play for K. And any donations or support we can raise is appreciated. So please. And in terms of the game, we're playing Kentucky, top 18, I think, right now. Beat them at their place last year. Very good team. I got a number of transfers. They've got a player that was a conference player of the year last year, and Ryan Howard, one of the best players in the country for sure. And just a team that wants to push the tempo. And she's a very prolific scorer who wants to put numbers on the board. And so we'll have our hands full tonight for sure, but just excited to get out there and compete again. Our team feels great about our win the other day, and we got a lot of young players gaining more experience every single day and just gaining more confidence. So can't wait to get out there at the O-Dome tonight at 7 o'clock. It is on ESPN U or Plus tonight, but would love as many of the Gator Nation to come out there and support us if possible, please.
Yeah, Coach, when you look at the SEC, I think there's 5 or 6 teams ranked in the top 25. Back when I was playing, it was all Tennessee with Pat Summitt. The SEC, I think, has gotten better over the years in women's college basketball. Why, in your opinion, doesn't women's basketball get the headlines? I mean, softball has come on really strong lately, and I think due to the SEC network being on TV and them showing the College World Series on ESPN. What has to happen for the women's game to get that excitement?
Well, I think part of it is people's ego. One reason why I didn't want to go to the women's side at first was because my ego was like, well, there's no dunks, there's no high flyers, and the crowds aren't as big. And then I started thinking, you know what, that's the wrong way to approach this. Coaching is coaching. And so that's why, I had to check my ego at the door. And it's the same thing with fans. You got to check your ego at the door, and you got to appreciate it for what it is. Yes, we don't have the high flyers. It's not as fast paced necessarily, but it's a lot more fundamental. And so if you understand what you're going to see, that you're going to see more team basketball, probably more fundamentals, and you're going to see people compete at such a high level in connection with the chemistry that these teams have, then I think you're going to enjoy what you watch. And a lot of people that come out and see, they enjoy it. And I just think sometimes it's just people want to see NBA type action, and that's not what you're going to see, and that's okay. But it is a great game to really appreciate. It's more of an art at times because of the chemistry that you have with these teams, because of fundamentals. And it's not as one player dominant. You don't have Carmelo Anthony's, or one player can come in and just lead a team to the championship. That doesn't happen the same. And I think another reason is that there hasn't been a lot of parity, Shane. It's
Right.
tough because after your top 6 or so teams every year, those are about the only ones that win the championship. And just to show you what I mean, when I was at Louisville, we were the number 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, and we beat Baylor, the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. And that was the biggest upset ever in the tournament. And we were a 5 seed that went to the championship, and we were the first 5 seed ever. That year, UConn men won the tournament as an 8 seed, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And so I think part of that is just, parity. It's a lot of the rich get richer at times. And so now you're starting to see more of that happening, like you referenced with the SEC, which is the best conference in the country for every sport, let alone women's basketball. We've got the Olympic coach in Dawn Staley at South Carolina. And, I think that's what it is. People just have to give it a chance and watch. And I tell you, there's a product that they're going to see that they're really going to enjoy watching and seeing how hard these women compete.
Coach, last thing for you. The transfer portal is huge in college football. And then you watch a men's college basketball game and you hear the announcers, well, they got 4 transfers. This guy played here. This guy played there last year. Has that been a big part of women's basketball yet, the transfer portal?
Well, Shane, just to really put it in perspective for you, this team we're playing tonight, Kentucky, they have 8 or 9 kids that have started games at the BCS level, and I think 5 of them are transfers. So yeah, that has impacted some of these teams immediately, and this is before that play immediately rule has come into play, if that's going to get passed, which I think it will. And so yeah, the transfer portal is a big deal. We've already had people. There's some players already that are in the transfer portal before the season's even ended right now. And it's just crazy because you want to explain to these young people, like, look, it's okay if at the end of the year you want to part ways, but to do that mid-year when you're going to throw away half the season for your growth and development, that's just not very smart, but it's tough because, Shane, the way we grew up, we didn't grow up with social media where you're putting your best life out there every moment and instant gratification, and the internet where you can get news and what you think are facts immediately. And so these young people are dealing with a totally different society than what we had. And it's tough to get them to understand that, you got to put money in the bank. You got to put money in the market if you want to get gains. And some of these young people just think that when they get to college as freshmen that they're going to play right away, and they don't understand at this level what you have to put in and the consistency of the effort every single day. And that takes time to get them to understand that. And so you really got to connect with your players. You got to meet them where they are to prevent that. And you got to help them understand that, look, it's the process, it's the long game, and it's going to pay off. And it's okay if you don't play right away. It doesn't mean you have any less value to us. But I think sometimes they see their friends and these other people on the social media, and they forget that 95% of what people post is their best life, not the reality of really the struggles they go through to have to work as hard as they do to get what they've earned. And so the portal, it's here. We have to deal with it. We have to adapt to it, because change is inevitable, but progress is a choice. And that's the choice that we have to deal with. We have to progress and keep educating and helping these people learn best they can, these young ladies.
I got one last thing for you. I'm going to let you go, and I really appreciate you joining us today. The SEC tournament, is it still on? Because, there's so-called all these experts out there. Some are saying that they should not have conference tournaments, just go to the NCAA tournament. But I think they need to have them, because teams need to win games to work their way into the big dance. Right now, where does the SEC sit with that? And do you think we have conference tournaments in the women's game and in the men's game?
Yeah, I think we will. We had a conference call last week where they talked about all the logistics of all that. The only thing that's going to be a little different with it, Shane, is when teams get there, you might have some teams that have to, forfeit their games because maybe they get a positive here or there, and all of a sudden they're out of the tournament because of that. That's going to be the curveball. It's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. But I think there will be conference tournaments. I think there's going to be a lot of precautions, testing, and people doing all they can to make sure the fans and the student athletes stay safe and healthy to compete.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you taking time. Good luck tonight. You got the program headed in the right direction. I know a lot of people are excited, and let's go beat those Wildcats tonight. Thank you, Shane. Means a lot to be on, and appreciate who you were as an athlete and who you are as a person and all you do for Gator Nation, man. You're the best. Thank you. Thank you. That's Coach Cam Newbauer. Join us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. I'll take our final time out of the program. When we come back, we'll wrap up this President's Day edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Chomp Harder Apparel, Silver Q, State Farm Insurance Agent Ruse Ogra. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all our great sponsors that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us. Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios at Center State Bank. We put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. Center State Bank, member FDIC. I want to thank JC for joining us, and definitely Coach Cam Newbauer. He has this women's program heading in the right direction, no doubt about it. Tomorrow's program, make sure you tune in. We're going to be talking about Gator baseball. They crank up in the new ballpark this weekend against the Miami Hurricanes. We'll have Jeff Cardozo, former player, and their play-by-play radio announcer join us, along with Buddy Martin. Make sure you follow us and like us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all those different social platforms. Tell your friends about us as well. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Be safe out there, folks. Enjoy President's Day. Take care.